evening. This is Prime Edition on the last day of August 2022 and the first day of the presidential petition that was taking place at Milimani, where the Supreme Court, the seven judges there of the Apex Court are conducting this particular crucial exercise. And on September 5th, we will know which direction we will be taking as a country. Good evening once again. I'm Regina Manyara and you're watching Prime Edition on KBC Channel 1. Our sign language interpreter this evening will be none other than Lady Lancer Ondingo. But before that, let's find out what has been making headlines in the last 12 hours or so. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission grants Raila Odinga access to all its servers. President Uhuru Kenyatta makes first public appearance after the general election. And inflation rate surges to a 62-month high of 8.4%, buoyed by a spike in price of basic commodities. Good evening, you're watching Prime Edition here on the 31st of August 2022. I'm Regina Manyara. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has granted Raila Odinga access to all its servers. In a statement on its Twitter account, IEBC said the decision was in compliance with Supreme Court directive after lawyer James Orengo said the electoral body had only given them limited access to the servers. Orengo, who is representing the presidential election petitioners Raila Odinga and Martha Karua, had also argued that William Ruto did not attain the constitutional threshold of 50% plus one votes to be declared the winner of the presidential election. Serafina Roby with the details.
The hearing of the presidential election petition at the Supreme Court kicked off in earnest at 9 a.m. on Wednesday morning, with petitioners explaining the reasons for disputing the presidential election results declared on the 15th of August.
What happened on the 9th of August this year and the subsequent events that followed on the 15th of August mark a pattern of violations against the Constitution.
Lawyer James Orengo, together with Paul Mwangi, Julie Soweto, Philip Murgor and Feroz Norji, are representing Raila Odinga and Martha Karua, tore into the voter turnout inconsistencies as announced by IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati.
The number of votes cast for each candidate individually, that is the petitioner, the second respondent, and the two other candidates, that the figure that results is not the figure that was stated in Form 34C. And you would notice, my lords and my ladies, that in totality, the discrepancies accounted for votes which are more than 140,000 votes.
There was a discrepancy between the votes cast for the president, votes cast for the governor, votes cast for the senator, and votes cast for the woman representative.
Orengo further submitted that William Ruto, who was declared president-elect, did not attain the 50% plus one votes as required by the Constitution, despite being announced to have gotten 7,176,141 votes, representing 50.49%.
Second respondent never attained that constitutional threshold.
Orengo alleges the percentage was attained on a wrong computation. Orengo further took issues with the rejected votes, 86,889 votes cast manually, and the wrongly transmitted votes. In support of affidavits sworn by Edgar Otumba and Arnold Oginga, Orengo and lawyers Julie Soweto cited a deduction of votes from Raila Odinga that were allegedly added to William Ruto.
There was a systematic deduction of the votes cast for the first petitioner, and the same number of votes that were deducted from the petitioner were added to the votes of the second respondent.
In Chepalungu, polling station 1 of 1, the first petitioners and the physical copy of the Form 34A that was given to the agent, the first petitioner had 61 votes. In the form that was uploaded, or that is appearing in the IBC portal, the first petitioner has 1 vote. In the Form 34A of the same polling station, the first respondent, William Ruto, had 109 votes. In the Form 34A in the IBC portal, William Ruto has 169 votes. The 60 votes that are reduced from the first petitioner are added to William Ruto.
They also faulted Chebukati for announcing the results before verification of results from 27 constituencies and variance in votes announced and those uploaded.
A rough calculation of what is given as stray ballot for Kirinyaga County alone yields 33 stray ballots per polling station on average in Kirinyaga County, which we submit is not possible.
A continuous generation and regeneration of 35C, yet 35C was 34C, yet 34C was supposed to be generated only once at the very end of all the information.
Orengo will then compare the electoral body IEBC to a fallen Tower of Babel, given the divisions within it, as he faulted the chair of acting in seclusion of other commissioners.
As you have heard, as you have read all the documents, we saw only Mr. Chebukati doing these duties and not doing these duties as part of the commission, but by himself.
Then I implore this court to use the same reasoning and tell the chairman in the same voice that it has told the national executive that your power to declare does not give you any power to decide on what you declare.
While quite plausible arguments from the petitioners, but this is just one side of the story. Will they be able to withstand the rebuttal from the respondents? The Supreme Court battle has just begun. Serafina Robi for Prime Edition.
Now, still keeping tabs on what has been happening at the Supreme Court is that Busia Senator-elect Okia Omtata has produced calculations he claims indicate that William Ruto did not get the 50% plus 1 vote to be declared president-elect during the August 9th presidential vote. Now, Omtata, who is a petitioner himself, argues that there were numerous mathematical errors and that 140,138 votes were untallied.
Members of the Honorable Court.
Unlike other petitioners, Busia Senator-elect and activist Okia Omtata decided to represent himself in what is called pro se in legal terms.
I will rely on the petition we filed jointly with the 3 others.
Omtata arguing that there were numerous mathematical errors in the August 9th presidential election and that no candidate attained the 50% plus 1 vote threshold as declared by the IEBC chair Wafula Chebukati.
In the scenario no candidate acquires 50% plus one vote, you get that William Ruto gets 49.99692402%. So Raila gets 48.372118662.
Omtata saying there were differences in the valid votes and the total of votes allocated to the candidates, saying it was not an innocent mistake.
It is a situation whereby somebody has left a trail that they were working backwards from a certain figure which they had, and they were working backwards, and so they began to get that.
In his submission, Omtata questioned why some KIMS kits were still transmitting results hours after the polls closed.
The KIMS kits are transmitting some 23 hours later, still transmitting data, the day after the voting, and we know that it's only elders where elections were taking place. Now, when you analyze that data, you find that 508,647 ballots are added on the 10th. And you saw Land Council release show that the audit of the register had almost the same number of ghost voters.
He now wants the Supreme Court to declare the percentages allocated to the presidential candidates null and void, terming the Form 34C as an invalid document which should not be allowed to stand. Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
Now, the scrutiny of 45 presidential election ballot boxes from 15 polling stations is underway at the Supreme Court. The exercise undertaken under the supervision of IEBC and Supreme Court Registrar has so far scrutinized and tallied only 7 ballot boxes from Vita constituency. Ben Chumba witnessed the scrutiny process and filed the following report.
172, 73.
Under heavy presence of police drawn from GSU and administration police, the tallying and scrutinizing of ballot boxes from 15 polling stations in 4 counties kicked off at the Supreme Court Sub-Registry at Forodha House in Milimani Law Courts.
So very fast, so that we are not there for a long time.
Lawyers representing Raila Odinga, William Ruto, IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati and IEBC commissioners all present to witness the exercise.
So are we saying that we have not accounted, or there is an unaccounting of 3, 5, 2?
In the exercise undertaken under supervision of IEBC and Supreme Court Registrar, the court officers opened ballot boxes from 7 polling stations in Vita constituency, counted the number of votes inside the ballot boxes, tallied the votes cast against the number of votes received by each presidential candidate.
You're dealing with whose? William Samoei Ruto. Okay, they are in bunches of, now we'll count.
Odinga Raila, 108, 108. Ruto William, 124. 124.
The court officers further scrutinized contents of Forms 34A to establish whether they were signed and stamped by the respective returning officers. So far, out of 7 ballot boxes scrutinized and tallied, the officers noted that in several ballot boxes, Forms 34As were missing and some were not signed or stamped by the respective returning officers.
Is any objection to what he has said? Can we move on? We are good? Let's close. Seal, we go to the next box.
The team will undertake a similar exercise for a number of polling stations in Kericho, Nandi and Nyandarua. The Supreme Court Registrar has until Thursday to finish the exercise and submit its report. Ben Chumba, Prime Edition.
79.
Now, the Apex Court allocated just 48 hours for that particular exercise that terminates tomorrow in the afternoon. And you can bet that our reporters, Ben Chumba and Serafina Ruby, are going to be on that particular beat. Now, all eyes at the Apex Court. The Supreme Court of Kenya now has dismissed requests by 4 petitioners to have ballot materials from more polling stations scrutinized in the ongoing verification exercise of 15 polling stations stations, citing time constraints. In the orders, Justice Isaac Lenaola rejected a plea by Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga, who wanted the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to provide Forms 32As and 34As from 517 polling stations, warning that it will be creating a new case. Justice Lenaola also directed the IEBC to provide Forms 32As and 34As Book 2 from only 41 polling stations as requested in the affidavits of Celestine Anyango Opio.
As after scrutiny of ballot materials began ahead of the 48-hour ultimatum, the Supreme Court 7-judge bench came out to clarify directions given on Order Number 7 on vote scrutiny and recount after it emerged that parties involved were unable to agree on how to conduct the exercise. Justice Isaac Lenaola, in his ruling on Wednesday afternoon, dismissed a request by 4 petitioners to have the vote materials under scrutiny increased.
We thought, in our wisdom, that order is specific to contested polling stations.
Justice Lenaola, citing time constraints, put aside requests by the first petitioner Raila Odinga to have the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission provide Forms 32As and 34As from 517 polling stations, Otieno Ogola's request for 229 polling stations, Njoki Mboshe for 238 polling stations, and Kelef Khalifa.
I believe the petitioners, first petitioners, have asked for 517 stations. Obviously, with the time we have, and they've already spent the whole day haggling on this, 24 hours or 48 hours are gone, it is now impossible to comply with that order.
The Supreme Court has directed IEBC to only provide Forms 32As and 34As Book 2 from only 41 polling stations in affidavit of Celestine Anyango Opio for scrutiny, saying any additions will be creating a new case.
That is the only way that exercise can be can have meaning. And that those forms will be a sample for which you can submit in accordance with your pleadings. We cannot allow you, we said, to go outside your pleadings, because what's happening now, we are creating a new case out of these forms. So please stick to your pleadings, and once we get those the report on those forms, you submit on them in the context of your pleadings.
Concerned parties have been given an ultimatum of Thursday 2 p.m. to have completed the exercise. Kamche Menza for Prime Edition.
Indeed, it's a race against time there as the 48-hour window expires tomorrow at 2 p.m. Now we take a fast, quick breather. We'll be right back with more. Do keep it right here.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii ya jogging kwa simu yako, bonyeza *811 *758#.
Good morning, class.
Good morning, Mr. Kipto.
Now I want you to write a composition using the word jogging.
Teacher, please give us spelling for the word jogging.
Sijasema jog ile jog ya kunyongwa. Hapana. Ninasema jogging. Na sijasema jog ile nye unasema jog ya kukimbia ya marathon. Ama ile jog ingine ile jog ya television ya kucheka. Sijasema hiyo jogging. Na maanisha jogging your brain ile kukimbiza akili ya changamoto. That a composition using the word jogging.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii, bonyeza *811 *758#. *811 *758#.
Mtu akiwa serious, akuwe serious.
Life cannot always be too serious.
Yeah, man, what's up, yeah?
Allah? We've got to take some time off and laugh and laugh. and we tickle you down with lots of laughter.
That's why I'm saying I'm who is who. Huh?
With satire like no other.
Tell him to bring it on.
Dakachapa.
You will only find peace and forgiveness when you confess what you've done. You can't keep hiding it.
Ileana, will we meet again?
Of course.
Why were you talking to the new partner of this hotel?
What? He is the new partner? Never.
Stop it, Nuria!
My goodness.
And if they happen to allow me to get close to them and be a part of their lives, I will be delighted.
Have some good news for you. We're officially dating.
Good evening, you're watching Prime Edition and I am Regina Manyara. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, dissenting 4 commissioners, have poked holes on the presidential results released on the 15th of August by the commission's chairperson, Wafula Chebukati. Lawyers representing the 4, Paul Nyamodi, Paul Muite and Mansour Issa, claimed Chebukati excluded commissioners in the constitutional process, only assigning them protocol rules, and that they found it hard to ascertain if indeed any of the presidential candidates attained the 50+1 votes cast to be declared the winner.
The 4 dissenting commissioners who have been named as respondents in the presidential election petition want the court to nullify the presidential election, claiming they were not part of the process. Lawyers Paul Moite and Issa Mansour, representing Juliana Cherera, and the 4 dissenting IBC commissioners, claim the move not to tally the 27 constituencies are enough grounds to nullify the election.
I did the chairman refuse to put on those results and to verify the numbers that were being read to the nation. The second question that you'll see that arises in terms of the process of verification and tallying, that has been covered by some of the parties that have submitted today. You'd note that when that process reached the tail end, the 27 constituencies that had not been announced, had not been publicly confirmed to have been verified. And in fact, when you look at the affidavit of Commissioner Wanderi, he says he had taken a break because he had been there overnight. When he came back, the first expectation was that these results would be confirmed, they had been verified, and that they had been announced to all the agents. The chairman takes the position there was no constitutional requirement, or he had no legal requirement to do that. No, he had. Because the Constitution requires transparency and accountability. That is a process that takes place at the National Tallying Center. It is not a perfunctory exercise. It is not a ceremony. It is a constitutional process.
The official position of the Commission is as per the views and affidavits of a majority of the commissioners. And that has to be so in law. The reason being that under the Constitution, and in fact under the statute, the IEBC is a corporate entity. Therefore, in the absence of consensus, its decisions as an institution are by the majority. So that on the elections day, and we have said 6 hours, you needed to know how many of us voted. The moment that information was not provided, the system and the process was exposed to anything could happen. And actually by the 15th of August, the worst, and all that could go wrong actually went wrong on the 15th of August. And therefore this is why we are saying these violations were not just minor violations. They were violations that indeed went into the heart of what is before this court, the disputed elections.
They claim the affidavits by IEBC chairperson that the 4 commissioners were forcing a runoff are false.
So they were demanding of their chair, you cannot bring a paper here and tell us that these have been verified and tallied by the chief executive. The work of the chief executive is to implement decisions of the commission. He is not part of the commission any more than the registrar, the chief registrar, implements, or any registrar of the High Court implements the decision of the judges, not the other way around. So they were saying we need to tally and verify the results in respect of these 27 constituencies. And the chair would not allow that, which was typical of the relationship between the chair and these 4 commissioners.
Results that were announced on the 15th of August, the system that had been put in place, the person who was in charge of them, it was not the commission, it was not IEBC, but that is the chairman. The chairman is the one who can be able to answer most of those questions. The results that were announced, his position is that those were not the results of the commission, those were the results of the chairman.
The 4 dissenting commissioners on the affidavits submitted that Chebukati announced unverified results despite conflicting figures in some Forms 34A and Forms 34B.
The commissioners were expected to ascertain and satisfy themselves that whatever was being put into 34C was a true reflection of the contents of 34A and 34B. But they were never given that opportunity.
They further submitted that IEBC chairperson arbitrarily deployed and transferred county returning officers and rebuffed commissioners who asked why the screens at the Bomas of Kenya were not continuously displaying cumulative vote.
While we are seeing all this being displayed, and remember that during Bomas, the display to show Kenyans that these are the results that were coming in, this is how the figures were adding up, that was disabled at some stage. So that what effectively this meant, that the true purpose of Article 138 ends up being defeated. Defeated in the sense that for the winner goes and declares that I had the most numbers in accordance to Chebukati.
The lawyers further argued that postponement of elections in 8 areas was not a unanimous decision by IEBC, but a decision by a few to favor the petitioner's opponent. For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Communications Authority of Kenya, CA, regulates the broadcasting industry, promoting development of local content and ensuring responsible use of broadcasting platforms for national good. To keep...
brother!
Nick is more trustworthy than Kathy.
I would even put Kathy and trustworthy in the same sentence.
Kathy seems to have some kind of sentimental attachment to J&J.
I come here often than you do.
Kufanya nini?
I work closely with Glenn.
Oh, okay.
Glenn, yeah.
The Communications Authority of Kenya, opening your world.
Every day we are go fight. I think it's best that you forget me. God damn, you're so much, you're no right.
Dirty and you want sweet soup, and there is no bad mind and the good. They shall slowly fade away.
Under the pressure, yeah, under the pressure, under the pressure.
Nothing they can do to stop this music.
Good evening. This is still Prime Edition, and today was the first day of the hearing of the presidential petition at the Supreme Court, where we saw the petitioners have their day in court. We expect that the respondents are also going to have their day in court tomorrow. But what are the issues that the 7 judges are going to be determining upon, with a deadline looking at September 5th? Let's have a look at the 9 key issues. So among the 9 key issues, the first is whether the technology deployed by IEBC for the election met the standards of integrity, security and transparency to guarantee accurate and verifiable results. The IEBC has over time been, stating that it is ready to conduct a free and fair election, and this is one of the key issues that is set up for determination by the Apex Court. Secondly, we have whether there was interference with the uploading and the transmission of Form 34A from polling stations to the IEBC public portal. And thirdly, whether there was a difference between Forms 34A uploaded on the IEBC public portal and the Forms 34A received at the National Tallying Center and Form 34A issued to agents at the polling stations. This may be informing why we're having currently the scrutiny of ballot boxes from at least 15 polling stations, with the timelines earmarked for tomorrow at 2 p.m. 48-hour window to have that particular exercise complete. Now, fourth, we have whether the postponement of the gubernatorial elections in Kakamega and Mombasa counties, parliamentary elections in Kitui Rural, Kachiliba, Rongai and Pokot South constituencies, and electoral wards in Nyaki West in North Imenti constituency and Kwanjenga in Embakasi South constituency resulted in a voter suppression to the detriment of the petitioners. There's been a keen focus on the low voter turnout that was, that characterized the postponed elections that just took place 32 hours ago there in Mombasa, Kakamega and across the 4 constituencies there and the ward elections. Now, fifth, whether there were unexplainable discrepancies between the votes cast for the presidential candidates and the other seats. This is a question that we saw also feature in the 2017 presidential petition. It has come up for debate once again and litigation as one of the 9 key issues that the Supreme Court will be considering in the presidential petition 2022. Now, sixth is whether the IEBC carried out the verification, tallying and declaration of the results in accordance with the Constitution. Now, seventh, whether the declared president-elect attained 50+1 vote of all the votes cast in accordance with Article 138(4) of the Constitution. Earlier on in one of our news pieces, just giving a recap on what was happening today at the Supreme Court. We had activist Okia Umtata there do some mathematics there to just indicate that none of the contenders, the presidential candidates there, attained the 50+. One, a key issue that is going to be determined by the Supreme Court. Eighth, whether there were irregularities and illegalities of such magnitude, such as to affect the final result of the presidential election. Taking you back to the presidential petition in 2013, where the dispute in regard to the votes cast and the discrepancies there were not enough, actually, to have a nullification of the presidential election then. And last but not least, we have the final issue there. Those are just 9 key issues that the Supreme Court will be considering in this particular presidential petition. The timelines that we have so far are September 5th. Indeed, we will know where, or rather which direction the axe or the justice pendulum is going to favor. Now, who is leading this particular, bench? Who are they? We know the 7 judges. Let's meet at least the chief justice there and her deputy. Let me get that. There we go. And among the 7 judges who are going to be making that crucial decision in regard to governance and leadership in the country is none other than Chief Justice of Kenya, Martha Karambu Koome. Just to understand who she is that Martha Koome was born on 3rd June 1960 in Githiu Village, Meru District. She holds an LLB from the University of Nairobi and an LLM in a public international and law from the University of London, and quite accomplished there in as far as academia is concerned. Now, she started her own firm in 1993, Martha Koome and Co-Advocates, and became the managing partner until 2003. She was then later elected as a council member of the Law Society of Kenya, and now even during this particular presidential petition, we have LSK enjoined as friends of the court in this particular presidential petition. Now, at the Bomas of Kenya, during the her tenure at the Law Society of Kenya, she took a leading role in the constitutional and legal reforms and was part of the constitutional review process, and as a delegate at the Bomas of Kenya, where she partially chaired the thematic area on the Bill of Rights there. That's just but a sneak peek in exactly who the current Chief Justice of Kenya is concerned. Now, Koome has distinguished herself as a defender of human and gender rights and was one of the lawyers who participated in the clamor for the repeal of Section 2A of the Constitution for the independence of the judiciary. She is an acclaimed expert in family law and takes a keen interest in the welfare of children. She is now, you can get further details in regard to the life and times of Chief Justice there, Martha Koome, as prepared by us. We are going to be keeping tabs on exactly what is going to be happening at the Supreme Court. Further details are still available on our website. Now we take you back to the stories that have been making headlines in the last 12 hours or so. And now President Uhuru Kenyatta on Wednesday made his first public appearance after the August 9th presidential elections. The president, who was accompanied by Azimio la Umoja coast leaders, led by the outgoing Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho, took a walk along the streets of Mombasa, greeting residents who had crowded along the road. He, however, did not address the public. Earlier on, the president had a closed-door meeting with the leaders at the Mombasa governor's office.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has been keeping a low profile since the end of the campaign period. Amid his silence, calls have been made for him to acknowledge the president election results and congratulate his deputy, the president-elect Dr. William Ruto. On Wednesday, he re-emerged in Mombasa in the company of Azimio la Umoja Coast leaders, led by outgoing Mombasa Governor Hassan Joho and the Governor-elect Abdul Swamad Sharif Nasir. Details of the meeting they held prior to the street tour remained scant, as it was closed door. Other leaders present were Mombasa Senator Mohammed Faki, Mvita Member of Parliament-elect Mohammed Saud Mashele, and Bakassi East Member of Parliament Babu Owino, Badi Twalib Jomvu, Naisula Lesudo of Samburu, Nairobi Woman Representative Esther Pasaris, and her former Muranga counterpart Sabina Chege. Timothy Kipnusu for Prime Edition.
Now that takes us to matters business, where rising prices of basic commodities have pushed up the rate of inflation to 8.5%, which is a 62-month high on account of effects of prolonged drought and a weak shilling. Data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics indicates that the prices of maize, rice and sugar shot up, contributing to the cost of living rising above the government's medium target of between 2.5 and 7.5% for the third consecutive month.
Kenyan households will continue to dig deeper in their pockets as the cost of living continues to rise. Even though the government has targeted to keep the rate of inflation between 2.5 to 7.5%, the overall year-on-year inflation has this month remained outside this targeted band, making it the third consecutive month that inflation is above 7.5%. Latest data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics indicate that the rate of inflation is at 8.5%, rising for the sixth month in a row to a 60-month high. This month's inflation figure is only higher than the one recorded in June 2017, when biting drought had pushed up the rate of inflation to 9.21%. KNBS says even though there were notable commodity price reductions such as carrots at 6.4%, onions at 2.4% and Irish potatoes at 90 basis points, the reductions were not large enough to offset increases of other sampled goods. The data shows that this month there was price increases for maize flour that rose 4.7%, sugar that was costlier by 4.6%, mangoes were up 4.1%, rice increased 2.9%, maize rose 2.6%, bar soap rose 1.5%, and the retail price of alcoholic beverages rose 1.2% for beers and 80 basis points for wine. The move by the government to subsidize fuel prices helped mute the impact of the overall cost of living. Caroline Jenga for Prime Edition.
Explaining the high cost of living at the moment. Now, Kenya is seeking to increase avocado sales to Armenia as it seeks to access the Russian market indirectly. The Horticultural Crop Directorate Director Benjamin Tito says Kenya halted direct avocado sales to Russia due to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, instead opting to use neighboring countries to access the Russian market that is the largest consumer of Kenya's Futa avocado variety.
Since the Russian-Ukraine war broke out early this year, Kenya has lost 90% of avocado sales to Russia, with farmers forced to halve the price of the Fuerte avocado variety prices. The Horticulture Crops Directorate now says Kenya stopped direct avocado shipments to Russia due to the war and the trade embargo placed on Russia, and is instead seeking to reclaim the market indirectly, shipping through neighboring countries. Armenia has been earmarked as one of the potential countries that could act as a link to the Russian market. Kenya is seeking to increase its avocado export to Armenia, which as at 29th August imported 49,536 kilos of Kenyan avocado, valued at 5.4 million shillings. This as Netherlands still remains the largest importer of Kenyan avocado, with the European nation importing 20 million kilos of the fruit, valued at 3 billion shillings. The United Arab Emirates is the second largest market for Kenyan avocado, importing 8 million kilos of the fruit, valued at 1.045 billion shillings. France was the third largest avocado market for Kenya, importing 6.3 million kilos of the fruit, valued at 1 billion shillings. Hong Kong and China are the new markets for fresh avocados, with Kenya exporting 814,000 kilos and 133,000 kilos of the fresh fruit respectively. In total, Kenya exported 54 million kilos of the fruit globally, worth 8 billion shillings. Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Now to matters financing, where the Equity Bank is counting on a 6-pillar plan to grow its customer base and deepen intra-African trade. The bank says it is going to invest close to 700 billion shillings in agriculture, trade, small businesses, technology, manufacturing and social environmental transformation. Equity Group Chief Executive Dr. James Mwangi says the investment will help create 50 million jobs directly and indirectly.
The bank says the plan, dubbed African Recovery and Resilience Plan, will help create linkages by mapping agricultural ecosystems and value chains by financing agriculture players. The plan will further seek to empower subsistence farmers to cultivate commercially viable foods. The bank will work with players in both the public and the private sectors to tackle agricultural challenges in a holistic manner. The 6-pillar plan also targets to boost intra-regional trade by collaborating with freight forwarders for ease of storage and movement of large amounts of goods from one African country to another. Once implemented, the plan will help create 25 million direct jobs and 25 million indirect jobs.
Brenda Mutai Jerotich
Equity Group Chief Executive James Mwangi further says the strategy will help create linkages between countries, coordinating trade and financing suppliers, which will help create a favorable environment for manufacturing to thrive.
We can handle maybe 20 systemic issues of the world if we chose to. And if we changed 20 major issues that trouble the world, I believe the world will have been changed, because the principle of the 80-20 rules still applies. It's not how many things you do, it's how you prioritize and do the most important and significant ones that makes the 80% of the difference.
The bank, through its Equity Leaders program, has commissioned the airlift of 73 students who will be joining 48 global universities through scholarships under the Leadership Development Pillar. Reporting for Prime Edition, I am Teresa Mutai.
Sana to the Second Chance TV game show.
Tough questions.
Virunga National Park is located within which mountain ranges? Aberdare. Aberdare? That's your final answer?
Tough challenges.
3, 2, 1, go!
It's a survival for the smartest.
10 seconds to go. Who is the current president of Malawi?
Jakaya Kikwete.
Wrong answer. That is the wrong answer. Does it border to the east? Nakuru County. Nakuru County, you get 2,000 bob.
Premiering soon on Channel 1.
I will never engage or even consider participating in such kind of petty business.
Petty business? Then why are you asking?
Forget I even asked.
You people, you don't know what is going on out there.
What's wrong? What's going on?
Bosira has gone Uwashi.
Huh?
He has gone Banana Garizi.
Kamene, how dare you?
How dare me what?
How can you compare my executive business with that of a petty cow's business?
Like seriously, Atito, where do you think you're going?
I'm going to save the world.
Save the world from what?
From drought and starvation, of course, from Bosire Doka.
Songea tukupashe na zile ambavyo vitakupa tabasamu tosha.
Hana mapenzi wala mahaba, mtoto mbaya sana huyu.
What did you just say? Sio tamthilia tu.
And why you're saying that
ni tamthilia tosha
Alinishika hivi. What?
Sio burudani tu, ni burudani tosha.
It is the day that the Lord has made.
Na sinema bomba.
Enda kabisa kama uelewi kitu inafaa uelewe.
Na mada za kusisimua. KBC Channel 1, shirika la utangazaji Kenya.
Thank you for keeping it KBC Prime Edition. Let's now talk matters sports. My name is Karen Kipet. The National Olympic Committee of Kenya has boosted the national boxing team hit squad, which is preparing to compete in the Africa Championship in Mozambique, which doubles up as the qualifiers for the 2023 World Cup Championship. The provincial team of 9 boxers is set to depart on Wednesday next week for the games, which will be held from 7th to 19th of September. Among the boxers in Team Kenya are defending Africa lightweight champion Nico Koth, Shafi Bakari, David Karanja, Samuel Njau and Martin Oduor. At the last African Championships in 2017 in Brazzaville, Congo, Kenya finished 8th with 1 gold and 4 bronze medals.
Haya mashindano ya ubingwa wa Afrika yatawezesha mabondia kuweza kupata points katika ile tunaita journey ama journey to 2024 Paris Olympics. So bila ku take part inakuwa ni ngumu sana. So tunasema tunatoa shukrani zetu kwa kamati ya Olimpiki kwa kuweza kustep in na kuwezesha kwenda kushiriki katika mashindano hayo.
That the process of qualification and participation of Olympics starts 4 years before the Olympics. As a country, we were delayed. We normally do a lot of things in the last 12 months. At that point, it becomes extremely difficult for a lot of our athletes to gain the required points. It also becomes very difficult for some of the sports where they need long-term planning, long-term preparation.
The newly crowned Commonwealth Games champion Ferdinand Omanyala clocked 10.18 seconds to finish second at the 2022 Top Athletics Lausanne in Switzerland, United States. Marvin Bracey emerged fast. Emerged victorious in 0.01 seconds ahead of Omanyala, who was competing for the first time since he won the Commonwealth Games gold medal. The African record holder now shifts focus to Germany, where he will compete in the ISTAF 2022 in Berlin on the 4th of September before winding up his season in Croatia with the Memorial of Boris Hazenkovic event. Elsewhere, Kenya's Brenda Chebet and Sela Busiene finished second and third respectively in the women's 3,000 meters at the 2022 Palio City of the Oak Rovereto Athletics meeting in Italy. Japan's Nozomi Tanaka emerged victorious in 8 minutes 41.93 seconds. Collins Kipruto was beaten to the third spot in the men's 800 meters. This weekend at the Nyayo National Stadium with 5 matches on the card, Black Mamba will be hoping to stretch their winning streak when they face Inspired. Mamba currently lies second on the log with 12 points and will move to the top if they win the match this weekend. In other matches, Boomerang will play Thika, while Inspired will take on Boomerang in their second match of the day. In the women's competition, Ulinzi Sharks will face Amazon, while NCPB take on Net Navigators. In the final match of the day, Nairobi Water Queens tops the standings with 10 points, 2 ahead of second-placed Ulinzi Sharks. NCPB ladies are third on 8 points. Moving on to matters EPL, Southampton came from a goal down to beat Chelsea 2-1 in a Premier League match played at St Mary's Stadium last night. Elsewhere, Fulham beat Brighton while Leeds United drew with Everton. In tonight's matches, league leaders Arsenal will host Aston Villa, while Manchester City will welcome Nottingham Forest at the Etihad Stadium.
And Mount's made the run, back post is Sterling, he's going to get a second chance, and he puts Chelsea.
Both teams are now tied on 7 points and are in 7th and 8th positions respectively.